How would you characterize the offseason so far? I know nothing major has happened yet, but how would you kind of categorize it?
Right now, it looks like the Skins are perhaps a little overconfident in what they have internally, I think. I think the lack of conversations with any of their free agents, at least last week when we checked in on, I think your guy McNally had that Pierre and Deshaun hadn't been talked to. I reported that Chris Baker hasn't been talked to. And whether or not they plan on moving on or not, it's just kind of a different way to be handling that. I'm not saying they should be in full-scale negotiations, but, it's not like they haven't signed other guys. They made bringing back Nick Sundberg a priority and got that done. So it's a little bizarre they didn't do anything there. And then the way the defensive coordinator search was handled was it's tough to call it a botch because from day one I heard that Greg Minuski was a very serious candidate. So they didn't necessarily settle on Minuski because they were considering him all along. But to me, it's kind of tough to see why you don't make that move earlier last year or you don't go all out for Gus Bradley. We know they had him in the building. They have a history of guys they want don't leave that building without a contract. I think offensively just promoting Kavanaugh made a lot of sense. That's the one move coaching staff-wise that I have very little to argue with. But, there's one thing I find pretty interesting, especially as it relates to Cousins, is if Deshaun and Pierre don't come back, you got to imagine. I mean, Kirk almost threw for 5,000 yards, right? He had 4,900. Deshaun and Pierre were 2,000 yards of that total. So if you take out those numbers, now certainly some of that's going to be replaced, right? So say you take out one or both, but you're not going to get the same amount of production. And that could impact Kirk's free agent negotiating situation for 2018 because the numbers, if you look at Kirk's numbers, touchdowns weren't all that impressive. He threw some picks, but the yardage is what really stands out. Wow, this guy can really move the ball. If the yardage numbers dip, along with his completion percentage, because Pierre was such a good pass catcher, that could impact the long-term negotiation going into next season.
JP, a couple months ago, you were a proponent of extending Jay Gruden early. Tell us your rationale then and what you think is going to happen with Jay Gruden this year.
Well, what I was saying then is because it'll avoid any sort of lame duck conversation around Gruden, and I think the defensive coordinator search showed that would have helped. I think if you're Gus Bradley and you have a chance to go to a first-year coach that you know will probably get 2 or 3 years like he ended up doing, or you can come here where the coach is only guaranteed 1 year, I know he's got 2 years left on his deal, but very few NFL coaches go into the last year of a deal. And so Gus is like, all right, I know I'm going to get 1, maybe 2 here. I know I'm going to get 2, maybe 3 out there, even if it goes bad. I think that stuff had an impact, and that's why I think you take care of that. Clearly, I think Bruce Allen and Jay Gruden are close. I think Scott McCloughan and Jay Gruden are close. I think that those relationships should have bought him an extra year because I think it would have helped them in the defensive coordinator search.
Do you think?
And they knew they were going to have that. It seemed like they let Joe B go on January 5th. It seemed like the organization knew that decision was coming, and having the head coach in place another season or two, at least contract-wise, would have helped them bring in the top candidate that they wanted.
Do you think that if Cousins stays for at least this year, that Gruden has to make the playoffs to keep his job?
Yeah, it's certainly trending that way, unless it could be one of those fluke situations where the NFC East is so strong again that the Skins maybe go 10-6 and miss the playoffs. Maybe that's enough to keep Jay around. But I think they need to make the playoffs or get to 10 wins.
All right. Thank you, JP. I appreciate it, as always.
Very much, guys.
See you, bro.
Thank you, buddy.
JP Finley from CSN.
I think he brings up a really good point, and now it makes me think there's no chance that it come to a long-term agreement. Because if you know you're going to have an opportunity, they're absolutely not going to franchise you. 0% chance. The worst-case scenario is they transition you next year. Why would you sign a long-term deal? Because you know you're going to have another big year in all likelihood. Great offense for you. You got $44 million locked up in the bank, and you can go field offers. There is no chance he signs a long-term deal. He's completely convinced me. Convince me, because they're not going to franchise him next year. No chance.
No, they're not
Worst
gonna
thing
do
they'll
that.
do, as he says, and as Mike Florio suggests, is they'll transition
Well, what
him.
if they offer him a fair market deal?
I don't think they'll do it. I don't think the Redskins will
Okay.
be fair.
Yeah, I mean,
fair
if
market
they're
deal
not
is
fair, then he's-
24+ million.
Yeah, I haven't seen any indication that they're willing to go
No,
to that
you're
sort
right.
of
I mean,
number.
if they don't offer something in that, top 5 range,
I don't think they're going to.
Yeah, then they're going to franchise him. Yeah, and then he'll be gone.
And he's going to he's going to look at other offers next year.
Yeah, but those offers
You
will
mean
be
in 18?
in 18.
Yes.
But he's going to play with the
He'll
Redskins
play with the Redskins
this
next
season.
year.
Right, yeah.
But that's still not good enough for me because I want him to be our long-term solution.
Right. I hope McLuhan's good at throwing darts
For
and
some
finding
reason-
quarterbacks. I hope he's good at that.
For some reason, I was thinking that they'll figure out a way and they'll just suck it up and they'll give him a long-term deal, what he's worth. I'm sorry, he earned it. And they're not going to do it. And he knows next year, after this one, worst case is he'll be able to field other offers. And that's actually what he's...
The Redskins
what
don't
he's
see him.
drooling for that.
They don't
Right.
see him as their
well,
long-term
and
solution.
he'll get a fair market value deal